All right, the follow-up, episode 12. We got a banger today. We also brought a guest with us. This is Leia. She goes sitting here. For episode 12, we're doing the powerful Joe Rogan podcast and his guest, Brian Cox. It is a 3-hour marathon of a podcast. And Brian Cox, for those that don't know, he is a theoretical physicist. He is, if you've ever seen, what's that guy's name? I forget. Who's the really corny scientist that's on all the TV?
Hopefully not Phil Nye, the science guy.
No. The one like him.
They were talking about him. I don't know his name.
I don't know. I can't stand that guy. He is corny and cocky.
Oh, Neil deGrasse.
Yeah, that dude. I can't stand him.
I can't. He thinks he is the gift of this world.
Oh my gosh.
You can't touch him.
And he just goes to other smart people, here's what they say, and then takes what they say like it's his idea.
He's so sassy with it.
Dude. So if you've listened to a podcast with him on it and said, physicist podcasts aren't for me, try someone else. Try Brian Cox. He's great at connecting astrophysics to normal people. It's incredible. So when I saw him pop up on Rogan, this is like the 4th time he's been on. I told Conley we have to do these. These are my favorite.
Yeah, more to that point too. I listened to the podcast 2 times, really 2.5 times. And for the topics it was covering, that's saying a lot. That I was able to listen to it 2.5 times. There's some like dry topics, maybe not even dry, but there's other topics that his podcast covered. And I get done listening to it, I'm like, dude, Rogan is so good at like keeping these conversations going. It's crazy.
And interesting for the average listener, right?
Yeah.
On his last question, he even said, like, can you explain it to us? Like, Joe just understands his audience and what people want to know. So I wanted to start with a very easy question for you. I want you to explain to all our listeners what time is.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy one. It's a dimension, and we're traveling through it. We cannot control our pace through it. You know how you can walk forward or backwards, right? We're just going through it. It's a dimension just like all the other ones. We don't. Yeah.
Not bad. What about space?
Space.
What is space?
It's another dimension, right? Well, it's a combination. It's a combination of what, like 2 dimensions, I would say, right? And we can actually control how we move through it a little bit more.
All right, last one, because you're doing great.
Am I really?
No. What's gravity?
Gravity, well, we experience it. It's pretty simple in how we experience it, right? It's us being pulled towards other objects. But to understand how it works is going to be a complicated thing. You see all the explanations of like the plane, like the sheet, and they put an object in there, and you can see how other objects get attracted to it because it's like,
yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, that's gravity for sure. It's pretty simple.
So I love these topics because these are big, like space, time, gravity. They're things that we don't fully understand. We have a lot of theories on, and most people every day just accept that they're there. They understand how they apply to their lives, and that's as much as they think about them. But there's people out there whose job is to think about what those things are, which is just, I can't even imagine how smart you have to be to have the job of thinking of what those things are, theoretically, mathematically. Like, wow.
Yeah. I was thinking when they're like talking about Stephen Hawking and stuff, it's like, how does it like you truly have to be just like born that way? Because when you're a kid, you just decide like that's the path you're gonna take, and like they're just like super good at it. It's like, how do you even think about like starting to think about a black hole? Like, That's
right?
nuts.
And then applying math to it, right? It's
Who's checking these guys?
well,
They could be making
other
it up.
nerdy guys, right? I mean, there's a very small field, right? Out of all the
They could
sectors
be
go, these are the
colluding.
smallest.
They could be colluding and just like
They
have a
could
little
be
system
like,
where
hey
they all
guys,
agree.
if we all agree that there's some dark matter out there, no one's gonna call our bullshit. The
Yeah,
problem with that is if you could prove dark matter didn't exist, you'd be famous. So one of them would freaking
yeah.
be the one that crosses the
I'm
picket
just
line.
joshing. I'm not a conspiracy. I'm not believing a conspiracy that they're fake, but it's funny to think about.
Well, that reminds me. I mean, there's the quantum chip that Google released is all the news this week,
Yeah.
and it's claiming to have solved a problem that would take a normal the best computer we have like 25 million years or something crazy. But the big criticism is, yeah, it calculated something, but we don't know that it's right, which is kind of wild, right? I mean,
Isn't
no
that
one can
crazy?
check it.
Isn't that crazy?
Yep. So if you're listening to this podcast and you see us 3 hours, the last 30 minutes was the best. I thought. I mean, it reinvigorated me. That's when they started talking about the quantum stuff. To me, it's really cool how it's like we're really good. Humans are really good about figuring out stuff that applies to us, right? So stuff on our scale, we understand well. I mean, look at what we can do. But on the tiny scale, the quantum scale, we don't know anything.
Well,
And
it
on the
is a little
super
bit more
large scale,
complicated. The
is it?
quantum, I think so. When
I don't. I don't. I just think we don't perceive things in that. We don't have to follow the rules, so we don't have to figure them out.
did you listen to the All In podcast this week?
I haven't.
They explained when Google released it in their release notes or whatever, they said that it is proving to them that it does computations in like the multiverse. It was like in the Google documentation.
Which is kind of like what they were talking about at the end of this podcast. Like some people theorize that the way it solves it so fast is it takes wormholes to the other dimensions where all this knowledge is and then brings it back. Which is a mind.
Isn't that a little bit more? I mean, I guess I see what you're saying. Most complex problems, if you just break them down and keep breaking them down, they're simple, right? I don't know. Is this? I don't think off the cusp doesn't sound like it, but that's all complex problems and systems, right? Is
Right.
they seem complex, but you can just break them down until they're simple. I
Right.
don't know if we have the information provided or observable to break it down like that.
Yeah. My favorite thing about these podcasts is it just like gives you these facts to just blow your mind, right? And it does just boom, 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 boom. And you know, I like having one of these podcasts like twice a year, right? It's not something I want to think about every day, right? I'm not smart enough to be one of those guys. But just like once every 6 months, remind me how crazy things are at the large universe scale and at the tiny quantum scale. There's something about that. It just gets your juices pumping. It gets my juices pumping.
Do you ever? I know I like in high school a lot. We would like I'd go out and like look at the night sky, and see the stars, and it would give me that feeling of like, whoa, Do you
Like
ever
wonder.
do that? Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool.
I actually did it not
Yeah,
too long ago. And I was like, gosh, like I forgot, like I haven't looked up at the stars in a while. And like you can just go spend some time, and like it really gets my mind going. At least and I'll be thinking about random stuff when I start looking up at the stars.
that's right. And so, I got this from Brian Cox, but it's one of my favorite things to think about. Like when you look up at the stars, you're seeing the past. Isn't that wild? So those stars are 50 million light years away, meaning the light from that star that you're seeing in your eyeball has been traveling for 50 million years. That star does not look like it does in the night sky. It's changed for the last 50 million years, and it's just now reaching you, which is that's so cool. There could be a billion things different in that galaxy that you're looking at.
Yeah, I think that's a cool one because it's very simple to understand that. Oh, it's like, oh, that light is very old, and
Right.
that's not be there anymore potentially.
Right. Like time, right? We understand time. And I'm not even talking about how like crazy time can get in all these mathematical, how it can speed up, how it can shrink, all these things. But just like the scale of time in this universe is just it's wild. It's wild. So when you describe gravity, what gravity is, everything that has mass has gravity.
Uh-huh.
You know that means you have gravity?
Yeah, I don't have as much as other people, but I got gravity.
By other people, you're talking about this celestial body right here.
I wouldn't say
That's why I have people orbiting around me. But isn't that cool to think about? Like you have gravity. It's
yeah.
just so small in its force compared to the gravity you're used to sensing, like Earth and the sun and the moon, that it's imperceivable. It's like after these podcasts, I'm not sleeping tonight. There's no way. There's no way I'm sleeping tonight. I'm thinking about all these crazy things. It's going to take a couple nights to wear off.
Really? I think so. When I listen to this podcast, I'm like, I don't, I'm sure other people do the same thing as me. So for this one specifically, I will listen to it and then like I'll for like 15 or 30 minutes, I'll be on a whole different path thinking about something else. And then I'll be like, oh, I'm listening to a podcast. Because like some of the things they talk about just like spark ideas and then I'm off. And I'm like, and it's specifically this one. Like there's a lot of podcasts where I like can stay very in touch with. But this is a big reason why I don't have many notes is because I just go off on thinking about random stuff whenever they're talking about these like crazy ideas because they're talking about it because they already know the topics. At least they
Right.
understand it in some sense, right? So I got to think about it to try to understand it. That just gets me off topic.
And it unlocks connections in your brain. That makes sense. So if that means that, what about this? And then you're off here and they're progressing. I really struggled reading growing up. I still do because of that. I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like I'm reading, my eyes are going down the page, I'm reading the words, but my mind is not following what I'm reading halfway through the page. What really works for me is like audiobooks. I don't just listen to and do nothing because I'll adrift too. If I'm listening to audiobooks while I'm driving, right? Or while I'm playing Candy Crush or while I'm mowing the yard, that monotonous task that doesn't take a lot of brain power, but is enough to focus your mind, like tunes out all the wondering for me. It allows me to listen to things.
Dude, that is like the best way to listen to a podcast. It's like to wake up on a Saturday morning, drink your coffee, go mow the lawn, or go like trim the whatever in your yard. Something like that is like that's like the cream of the crop when it comes to listening to podcasts.
Yeah, that's peak podcast experience right
On
there.
a nice day too, dude, getting some
That's
sun.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. For sure. Did you know we had a black hole in the middle of our galaxy? I don't know how I didn't know it, but that's weird.
Yeah.
That's wild to think about.
It, it-
100 million times bigger than the sun. And I liked how Joe was like, I don't even know what that means.
yeah, you can't comprehend that.
Right. A lot of these numbers, it's like your brain is set to understand the world around you, not this giant scale.
Yeah. And you gotta think it's like the guys like Brian Cox, like if they like you would have to believe their brain's wired a little bit different. And if they like perceive those big numbers and like have a better understanding of them, like the way they interact with the world has to be so different, you know? Like people, what they say, there's no way people like understand them, like for the most part.
Yeah, for sure. You got to imagine it leads to a lot of the difficulties they have with society. I think that's why the people like Brian are so rare, is he's still social, but those geniuses, a lot of them, right, they don't do well with people.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was getting at. It kind of it just makes sense, you know. One, I mean, I'm sure you're gonna get there. I'll let you go. The things I'm wanting to say, you're probably gonna hit here in a second.
No, go ahead. I want to hear it.
So they go off on the alien tangent. I think I've heard it a million times from Joe Rogan. It seems like it's the same thing over and over. He's got
Yeah.
cool ideas, but I've heard it a million times. One thing I
Joe
haven't
wants to be a philosopher, by the way.
Yeah.
He gets kind of passionate.
And so the first time I thought about it was they were explaining what does civilization look like in a 100 million years, and that's
Right.
like, dude, that's like past Star Wars stuff. Like that's where it's
Mhm.
gonna be at. Even in a
Right.
1,000 years, we're probably gonna have people on at least one other planet, if not more.
So have you ever read sci-fi? Sci-fi. It's usually reserved for nerds like me. I get it. But have you read any sci-fi?
So I probably chose a bad one to start with, but I tried to read Ready Player One, and I got halfway through it. But I'm just more of a movie guy. Just let me watch a movie.
I'm more of a movie guy. But you like sci-fi movies?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
actually, it's wintertime, and in wintertime, this is not a debatable topic, but Star Wars is a Christmas winter movie. So I've been watching my Star Wars when I've been working on my
What?
side projects. Yes, dude, you don't know that?
What links Star
Yes.
Wars to winter?
It is a thing. You can look it up. Star Wars is a Christmas time / winter movie.
No, it's not.
It's a thing. Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It is a
If it's a
thing.
thing, explain it to me. Don't tell me to look it up. Explain it to me.
Well, you know where I think it comes from? There's two aspects of it, right? So when I think of Star Wars, I'm not a super nerd, so I don't know all the terminology. But when you have those big Skywalker things, not Skywalker, but the big the walker things that look like camels, and they're out in the snow, and the New Hope, I think, is all out in the snow and stuff. Correlates to snow in my mind, right? So I'm thinking wintertime. Second part is when you watch Star Wars, when you're cooped up in the winter and you're inside all the time. I've only watched Star Wars in the winter. Therefore, it's the only time I have to watch it all over again. Therefore, it's a winter / Christmas movie TV series. And it's a fact. You can look it up. People will talk about it.
And they got red and green lightsabers, so that's Christmas.
I'm saying, dude, and it's a vibe. Like, who doesn't want to bundle up on a couch on a cold day and watch some Star Wars? Probably a loser wouldn't want to do that.
I mean,
Anyways,
I'm not going to tell you no on that one. But
and
it's
I
not
even
like
think
you
about
can do
playing,
that all year round.
and you think about playing Battlefront. I only think about playing Battlefront in the winter. If it was a hot summer day, I'm not playing Battlefront.
Why?
That'd be stupid.
No, I'll play Battlefront
No, you're not.
anytime. Battlefront was awesome.
No, you're only having a Star Wars battle with the Jedi's and it's Battlefront.
They need to bring Battlefront back. That was a great game.
When they brought it to PS4, it was pretty good. I mean, I thought they did a good job.
It was
I
awesome.
Oh, it'd be a shame if we played it over winter break.
It would be, wouldn't it?
Hey, sir. Anyways, my point is proven. Put it in the comments. The poll will be: is Star Wars at
All right,
Christmas
I'm gonna
time?
write that down. Our Twitter poll.
Yeah, I'm glad I got that one off my chest.
There's a lot. I've heard a lot of stupid Christmas movie arguments. That one wins. That one wins.
I think it has more merit than Die Hard, but that's for another day.
Well, the reason I brought up sci-fi was like a lot of those books. A lot of those books, like, do a very good job of like imagining being in that world.
They do. They have these concepts that all the people like Brian Cox are like talking about, and you're like, especially the ones written a long time ago, and you can start to
They
see it.
nailed it.
Like, yeah,
And being in the, like, if you're writing one of those books like 50 years ago, wow, that's incredible. Before you understand, how computers came along and what the rockets we have today are. I like sci-fi because of that. They really paint that picture of what the world would look like in 10,000.
And they always have the robots be emotional and have a personality. And I think that's where it's going to go. I think that's the way that they kind of coexist or work in our world. Unless we just get totally taken over and we're just done and it just becomes all AI robots. But I don't think that's going to
Yeah.
be.
The one of the ones I wrote down was I now have a near fear that if the AI that does become sentient or does approach that AGI limit has some human programming in it, that's like worst case, right? I don't want my AI to have any emotions in it, any human biases. I just want to be logical.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be conscious, to care about morality. I just want logic. Just pure logic. I
I
want it
don't.
to be like my calculator. That I trust.
But the problem is it's trained on data. And all the data we have in our world is going to be biased. There's unless it can start creating its own, but how does it do that without having the biased data to start? Maybe, and what it's really good at is it's good at finding, I think, the pattern of truth between all the bias and information, but it's not like it's definitely susceptible to the bias of information in our world.
But isn't that the AI we know today? Because that's what we're limited to, and not the AGI that we talk about.
When I think of AGI, I mean, I think it's smarter than us, right? But does that mean it doesn't inherit any person-like features, like any biases and stuff? I mean, I think like when you look at like really smart people, right? Like Elon Musk, you say like, oh, he can he can really decipher the truth and like look at stuff. You feel like he can look at stuff with a clean slate. Like I think it could get to that point, but it's not to say he doesn't have biases. He doesn't have emotions and stuff that could skew his thoughts.
The
At
AGI I
least the
think of
first
is like,
iteration. I think the first iteration is gonna have those human flaws of AGI.
hmm, that's scary. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I would
Well,
rather it be up to the humans to use the perfect logic machine and we deal with the imperfect humans than this AGI having a hint of whoever programmed it in it.
that's when Joe was talking about having AGI be like the one who makes laws and stuff for our government. And the first time I listened to it, I was just like, that's just absurd to think we could trust that. And the second time I listened to it, I took it as more of like he was thinking of this AGI, of this theoretical AGI that is genuinely purely information based and no biases. But I don't see a world where you could trust that it is that. You know, like how as a civilization, how all people, you're really gonna trust that it is completely unbiased. Like I would have to do my own research, and 99% of people aren't going to be able to do that.
Yeah, if the AGI is talking about love and emotions, then yeah, there's no way I would trust it to be unbiased. But if it's talking about logic, I think you could buy into that, right? I trust my calculator, right? Because one, you can check it. The logical things you can check.
It kind of has the same premise of like the quantum computer thing, where it's getting these complex answers, but you're like, do we
That's
trust
true.
that?
That's true. Is it
Because
right?
if it is that much smarter than us, there has to be a faith that is implied to trust it,
Right. Jeez. That's scary.
isn't it? That's like a I don't know if I've
Yeah,
ever gotten to this layer.
that's wild.
That was one of my notes. Joe Rogan mentions sentient AI running the world.
Yeah, you could see like, get out of there, dude. Hey, come here. Like his examples was like you could picture an AI perfectly deciding how to split resources like food to feed everybody.
Uh huh.
Yeah, that's logic based. You have X amount of food, you have X amount of people, they need this amount of food here, this nutrition there, blah blah
How
blah.
are
These are supply chains. That makes sense, but
how's people gonna feel though when it determines that it's more important to give certain people more food because they're more important to the world than the other people?
I mean, that's where it has to be logical, right? It has to be something you can understand the logic behind its decision.
But like that means we have to program it with the end output of like what is the end output? Human happiness, the most healthy population, the most advanced population. Like what is the goal that we're going to give it to
To be
so
right.
it can
To be
provide
right,
us.
right? The calculator has no goal. I want the calculator to be right.
But then that's like that's has the
I want
assumption that we all as a people have one understanding of what the goal of being a human is.
I don't want AI solving that problem.
But it has to have that in
No.
mind to get the right solution. It's like your whole point of
No. I don't have to know that answer to feed people.
why? Because you're going to
Right?
need to
That's
know
a
what
math
people to
problem.
feed. If the goal is like it has
If
to
the
have a
math problem shows that we're not going to have enough food to feed everybody, okay, you telling me that answer, I as a human will decide what to do with that. Right? That's where my morality comes in.
but aren't you
I don't
wanting
want the
it
AI saying we don't have enough food to feed everybody, and because of that, we're only going to feed these people because they provide more benefit.
I thought that's what you were saying. You wanted to solve all
No,
the
I want a calculator. Like I want what I have on my phone. I want a TI-81 that not only can I ask it to multiply, but I can ask it what dark matter is, and our wormholes will. And
but I don't even with that like when you ask it does it have enough do we have enough food to feed everyone? I mean, I guess like in this theoretical world of it being able to solve that, does it have to have the knowledge of what's? I mean, it would have enough knowledge of what's enough food to feed everyone, but like, does it think that everyone needs to be a healthy weight? Does it think that we could all live with a minimal calorie intake? Like,
no, optimal. Hopefully,
okay, that
right?
makes sense. It would have to figure out what's optimal,
Right.
but hopefully that doesn't have a bias baked into it. But what's optimal? Yeah, it would figure it out. I'm tracking with you now.
And it's like there's multiple steps to solving a problem, right? There's identifying the problem, then there's coming up with potential solutions, and then there's deciding on the solution. And right, you could always have a human at the very end of that chain saying, it's kind of like how we do our missiles, right? AI is loose terms here, but software quickly determines how to defend against missiles, what targets to strike, what to strike with, right? Because it's a game of speed. But there's always that person at the end that has to click go, right? Because we don't want a software deciding to bomb someplace.
But
We want humans to make that decision.
aren't we kind of getting away from that though? To allowing them to make that decision, the AI.
No, we're at least not in America, to my understanding. We still have a human in the chain. Now, it might not be everywhere, and that might not be the winning strategy because of that.
So two things. One thing is that's so that perspective right there is the perspective I take on how AI will be implemented in my career path with software development. Is it will kind of take out the developers doing like research and making sure that the scope of issues and making sure their solutions solving all that. And it will provide someone with three like possible solutions. And so my job is going to be reviewing those solutions that the AI provides. So I think that's very relatable, and I think that's implementation many people don't understand. They want AI to just completely do everything, and that's not the first wave we're going to see.
Yeah,
Second,
it's going to take a lot of trust before we get past that.
second thing is aren't they developing fighter jets without cockpits in them in this next generation, and aren't those going to have to be fully autonomous? Like they're not going to have like communication from the ground. Because I thought that those are supposed to kind of swarm with like a fighter jet with a person in it. That's the idea.
Right. So that pilot in the fighter jet would be who says, "Hey, drone, go out ahead and
But if
take
they
out
have a
this radar."
swarm, if they have like you're flying your fighter jet and you have four other F-45 drones around you because their
Right.
next number would be in the 40s. You it wouldn't seem effective to give a command for each four of those.
Well, so
maybe
you're
it's
talking about
one
like saying, here's 1,000 drones, go kill every political leader in China, download the list, fly over there, blow it up, as opposed to like being there could be, I think what happens is a drone identifies this is a target and it comes back to the person and says, do you want me to take out the target like was my mission? And then they hit go. And so you still have a human in the loop.
I guess, but I thought the whole reason of why we haven't had drones up to this point is because that communication modem is a huge vulnerability. Like, there's not truly a way to have 100% confidence that if you have an autonomous fighter jet, that you're going to be able to control that till it comes back.
Right.
So, with
It can
that,
perform its mission. It can adjust to things on its mission without communication.
yeah, and that's the reason. That's how why I understood why AI was so important for like defense is because you can put that in the drone in the autonomous vehicle. You don't have limitations of humans, but it would allow you not to have communication to that drone to the point where you could actually lose control and someone else could overtake it. I always understand that's the worry behind.
Yeah, I really hope that there's some international treaties that prevent that. Seriously, I mean that's like the start of every Hollywood movie is you
Yeah,
tell the
but
drone to take out anyone that crosses this line.
you think the United States would be noble enough to not do that? Because these fighter jets, how I see it, are not usually flying over the United States, so it's not as much our worry as citizens, and the United States could probably slip by without people getting too mad.
Well, I mean, we
Not
also
saying
don't
not
have the
saying it's
worry of
right.
losing communication either. I mean, we dominate communication, right? There's very few places our weapons go that we don't have a link to. That's one of the reasons Starlink is so big, right? And the valuation of SpaceX is huge, is because I mean, you could talk to anything anywhere on the world, anything,
You
and
see
good
that?
luck interfering with that.
You see that Starbase like is they're trying to become their own city. They put a
I
letter
could see
out.
that.
Yeah, they're trying to
I always thought it was crazy when
propose.
they first did it. That is going to be the universe's first spaceport, which is wild, right? The way we think of airports and train stations, that is the world's first spaceport. I mean, Cape Canaveral has claim to it too, I guess, but
Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah.
not
I guess
really.
historically, I guess when you're reading the history books, that's going to be like the Wright brothers plane. You
Right.
know, it
I
didn't
think
have an
so.
engine. You weren't flying
Right.
too long.
It
You
was
weren't
designed to crash.
really
It
like.
didn't have
That's kind
landing
of
gear. It
crazy. It was like the most advanced technology, but it was so like I don't know,
Yeah, it
primitive.
really was. I liked watching the video today because they showed it right after they showed that Elon catching the rocket, and they explained how it was like less than 150 years since those two. And like anyone that like, whenever you hear those estimates about AI being here in 5 years or this radical thing changing in the next 10 years and thinking it's unobtainable, it's just those people are looking at their past and seeing how fast we're accelerating. And if you just play that forward, this exponential curve goes straight up.
Yeah, and that's kind of where that's the exact mindset I had when I was saying earlier. I've never thought about a million years in the future, let alone like 1,000. Right? Like that's
Yeah. I'm reading this book, speaking of sci-fi books, I'm reading Leviathan right now. Just finished it. And it's there's they've left Earth. Well, there's still people on Earth. They've settled Mars and they're terraforming Mars. They're in all the asteroid belts, mining all the asteroid stuff. And that's supposed to be like, I don't know, 500 years in the future or something like that. I mean, 500 next to a million is nuts.
yeah. I think when you get to a point like that, Earth is going to look like a. I don't know. I don't know if Earth is going to be like a utopian thing or if it's going to be like a Ready Player One thing.
I think, wow. Like, did you
Like
notice
it.
that one line? He kind of breezed by it. They didn't make a big deal of it, but he talked about talking to Bezos, and how Bezos wanted Earth to be a residential zone. Have you ever played like a city builder game where you have residential zones, you have business zones, and you have industrial? I play City Planner, or I play City Skylines, and you kind of pick where the houses go and where the industrial goes. You don't want them next to each other because the industrial pollute the housing and people get sick. But like a picture that, like all of our industry, all the pollutant stuff, all the dirty stuff goes to Mars, goes to asteroids. We get our water shipped in from these asteroids that are just ice, chunks of ice in space, and all that's left on Earth to do is take
Put
in
things off.
resources from the solar system and just have people survive on it. It's just homes. It's just residential zones. It's just where people live. That'd be incredible. That was a gangster line. I want Earth to be a residential zone. It was a gangster line.
I wonder how far. I think there's so much to talk about when you think about the future. But my biggest question is like, how far away is that? Like, are we going to see that?
And so, like, they were talking about it, and I couldn't agree more. It seems like a lot of these technologies are converging. We have space travel, we have AI, we have quantum computing really taking a leap this week. Energy feels like it's about to pop, right? Because we're
Yeah,
done doing all this crap renewable
robotic,
thing.
and you have
Robots, that's another big one.
in blockchain,
Yeah.
new
I mean, we got
technology.
some major technologies that all build off each other.
They really do, and I think AI is like the key one that can really bring them all together.
Yeah, it's that centerpiece of the wheel for sure. And it's also interesting that it is happening when it does seem like societally we're as ready to burst as we've ever been.
Especially America.
I feel like it's outside of America. Don't you feel like it's because America's intervening less? Well, that's the wrong way to put it. I mean, because America is responsible for a lot of areas that are unstable right now. Um, I don't know. It feels like Russia's more aggressive,
I mean,
knowing
who's
that
leading all those topics you just talked about? Who's leading them?
the U.S. is. I mean, we still have the most influence globally of more than all the rest combined. I agree with you on that one, but I feel like it's because our influence is diminishing that things are changing rather than our influence is increasing and
Yeah,
we're just worse.
I agree. I think it's because I mean part of your influence diminishing, right, is your ambition to get it back, right?
Right.
I just
It's
it's kind
caring
of wrong.
about influencing.
It's like the first generation where kids aren't better off than their parents. Like there's a fire kind of seems to be stewing. That's why there's progress with like the Doge thing. I think it seems like there's seems to be just a fire under the stomachs for change.
Yeah.
Oh man, what was you just saying?
It feels like the past generations borrowed against our economic stability so much, and it's finally time to pay the piper, right? You can't keep kicking that stone down the road per se. And yeah, so it does feel like America's boiling because of that, because there's a lot of frustration there about what's happened in the past and what they continue to try to do. But it feels like we're smart enough to know they're doing it now. And so, yeah, it does feel like there's a lot of change in America happening right now.
On the optimism side about AI taking over jobs, I think I've heard it from a couple people, but I think it allows humans to focus on these higher level issues, and then that's going to just help us advance more. Because instead of you just get
Maybe.
more money. I mean, as long as money gets redistributed towards advancements, right? Like you just have more advanced companies doing these cooler projects, like getting to Mars, getting AI, or getting robotics off the ground. That's just on the optimistic side of AI replacing jobs. I think there is worry, like valid worry, but on the other side, like that is the route it could go. I think it will go.
Yeah, and like the enemy of progress really is like famine, war, like these big catastrophes. That's the only thing that's going to stop this exponential growth. I mean, really, we just have to stay out of our own way. And I think about like my career. I've worked in defense my whole career, right? All the progress I've added to the human race is in weapons. And at least what I tell myself is it's because that that's where the coolest things are being made right now. That's where the most money is. That's where if you want to be a part of the cool project, right? There's no private, non-militarized B-21 being built anywhere. I mean, the SpaceX, right? And maybe that's the hope. Seriously, but I applied for SpaceX, right? I think you take away the conflict, and a lot of that economic prosperity gets pointed to other things that could progress us forward. I don't see that. I see the world bubbling right now, and I think investment in defense will only go up.
So, just go off a little bit. I listened to this is pretty off topic, but I listened to the Acquired podcast on Lockheed Martin, and one of the big takeaways one of the point of views they had was that they accredited Lockheed Martin to the beginning of Silicon Valley because they moved development out there for I can't remember what project it was, but it basically started accumulating really smart people out there, and they were accrediting Silicon Valley, which has brought so much advancement in the United States and really the world to a defense company.
Yep. I don't think that's relevant. I'll look at it as like, yeah, you're going to have these examples of where defense was motivated to make this weapon. To do so, they stumbled on this technology or this expertise that has spun off and helped humankind. But there's obviously a more efficient use of resources to just directly go do those things, right? I mean, there's merit to exploring every direction because you don't know where you're going to find that needle in the haystack. But that's where I wish the free market was more free. If you want innovation, let people innovate for the sake of profit, and there's no greater motivation.
Yeah, I wish we could see that in healthcare. To go on another, but yeah.
I mean, to get rich in a free market, you have to provide a product that people want, right?
Well,
And
man,
if the market was truly free, yeah, if the market is truly free, we might have a drive-through urgent care right now, right? I would rather go through a drive-through urgent care than what we got now, but that's not possible. I can't go create that business tomorrow, partner with 5 doctors, staff it, and do it. I can't do that. It's because I have to get partnerships with insurance companies. I have to get certifications, all these things.
So I'm all over the place. When you were talking about Bezos, this is one thing I want to say. I forgot Bezos wanting to make the Earth a residential planet. One of the things they mentioned, I've heard multiple times, is that there's only a football field's worth of gold on Earth. Now, I need this. I don't know if you understand that, but I need it explained to me because, like,
I heard it.
how
Yeah,
deep is the football
that's the
field?
thing.
Like,
Yeah,
is it an inch
exactly.
deep? Is it 10 feet? Like, that is like the most like stupid fact I've ever heard. And I don't know if it's because I listened twice, but I feel like I've heard it other places.
That and what it also misses is that conversation that gold is only valuable because of how small it, like how little there is wrong because out of all the elements on that periodic table, it has some of the best properties that you would use for engineering. Like it doesn't corrode, right? It's great at it's great at passing electricity without resistance. It's got all sorts of properties you really want. So a lot of things that we use would be made out of gold if there was more of it. And it looks good. That's
Yeah,
part of it.
I'm more pro. I'm pro. So just besides a lot of one of the reasons I'm pro Bitcoin, there we go, is because I don't think it's too far away that we're producing gold, like we're producing diamonds. I think diamond industry is kind of propped up, and I think diamonds are just going to get pretty dang cheap here in the future with lab grown diamonds out of the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't see that. I don't see how that wouldn't happen with gold. How we wouldn't be able to create it. I think that future is not too far away as well, and that's not going to be great for anyone holding their money in gold or hoping that that's going to be a good plan.
Right. For its store of value.
Yeah, I would be more worried about that than I'm worried about quantum computing ruining the blockchain.
Yeah, store of value is a tricky problem.
Yeah,
Always has been, always will be.
I think your safest bet is land. I mean, that's just you can't.
Until they terraform Mars and there's a whole other planet out there.
But then at that
I'm
point,
kidding.
then we're chilling. If that ever happened, I mean, you
You
might
don't
have
have
to
to
move.
worry about how much economic value you store.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically like when people went to America, initially. It's like, bunch of free land, who wants to go? I
Bunch
would
of the
probably
most
stay.
valuable land in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. They made countries rich. That's for sure. So I had on here, I think we got to talk about the God thing. Because like the middle half of this podcast was all about God this, AI becoming God. What does this mean about religion?
Got a little loopy there for a minute.
Yeah, it did. And personally, I hate when those conversations go that way. I think it's distracting. I think science and religion are two different things, right? When we talk about logic, science is all about logic. When you're trying to determine how big the universe is, you're not trying to answer what does that mean? How does that make you feel? So I hate when those conversations go that way because I think there's a lot of religious people out there that would love this conversation, but I guarantee turn it off once they start hearing that. I don't think it adds much.
Yeah. Well, I think you get into kind of different, like, and I think the reason you would get it turned off, or people would turn it off because of that, is because people just have different definitions of these words. Like, they're using, like, God, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is the definition of that to you? It's going to be different to everyone. It does kind of seem weird. Like, why is that? Like, if you're really trying to be logical and stuff, like, why is that the terminology you're using?
Yeah. And to be fair, they weren't writing a white paper in science. They were just talking. But I don't know. I wish it wasn't so charged. I wish there was more of a open mind to those things because
Yeah,
there's a lot of cool stuff out there that I think a lot of people miss because it gets close to that subject.
yeah. I'm kind of when because I understand that people have different definitions to stuff like that. I don't really pay much mind to it. I feel like I can kind of I see what they're trying to say, but I could see like how that could like turn people off to the podcast and whatnot. But I think you just gotta take it for what it is. Like I think when they're saying God, they're just talking about like a omnipresent, all knowing being, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can get offended about everything in this world. So I guess try to understand what they're actually trying to say, or just skip it because there's smart people, right? I think it would be a shame to not pay attention or listen
Yeah,
to them.
this stuff is really cool. It's really cool, and I feel like a lot of people miss out on it. The whole thing. So, like when they were talking about, the since the Big Bang, it's been 12 billion years, right? 3 billion of it is single cell organisms evolving to multicell. That's wild to think about, and I don't think a lot of people hear that, right?
Yeah, I mean that like it plays into like the exponential emphasis. Like that's
It
that
does.
flat.
It does. Yep, that's for sure. One of the things I like about Brian Cox is how much he says he doesn't know, and he's not sure. If you hear someone that's confident, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, he knows everything. Brian Cox is constantly saying he doesn't know something. I think Brian Cox is a million times smarter than Neil deGrasse Tyson
Yeah.
because he can say, I don't know.
Well, Neil deGrasse, he's not there to talk. He's there to tell.
Yeah, to show off how much he knows.
And he says it in very. He wants to emphasize that the way you thought before was stupid,
Yeah,
and
he
this
does.
way I the way the things I know is the smart
Right,
version of, and
for
that's
sure.
how. Yeah, I hope he never goes on Rogan. Has he been on Rogan?
He was, and
I
I did not like it.
I feel like it would be like when Fauci was on Rogan. He's kind of like,
Fauci,
do you remember when or was it not
this
Fauci? It was someone. It was someone next to Fauci during the
it was the
COVID.
doctor that constantly
Yeah,
goes on CNN.
dude. I that was such a big event because he just like he made that doctor look so stupid.
He's a self-proclaimed just he was the idiot that did Fear Factor and UFC. Like he's not a Nobel laureate out there taking his opinions apart.
Yeah.
I
That
was
was a
listening to
crazy.
Dave Smith the other day, and Dave was talking about how I think it was Dave.
Did you listen to his last one? Oh, sorry, I was thinking the wrong person.
But he was saying, like, once you take away the woke people's ability to cancel and silence people, and you get them in an area where they have to compete their ideas, they lose. That's why they get so upset about losing those abilities to silence people. That's why they're so upset about Musk buying Twitter.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting, and that goes on both sides, obviously. But man, if you get in a setting where you have to, defend your stance and you crumble, that's like, I can't imagine having something I'm very passionate about and just getting undressed like that. Where do you go from there?
Well, I think you got to sleep on it and reevaluate. All right, what else do you have?
Just like I love the scale of the universe, right? He's like, there's 400 billion suns out there. And if you just make some basic assumptions by looking at the average number of planets around the sun, that means there's trillions of planets. And trillions is a massive number, but there's trillions of planets out there. Like, that doesn't count asteroids, that doesn't count all the other clouds of gases out there. Some are massive, some are like Jupiter, like they're bigger than ours. And you think about this Earth, you and I haven't seen the whole Earth. I mean, we've seen videos of it, most of it, and it's incredible what you find on this one little rock. And just to think about how many incredible things are out there in the universe. One day, maybe one day, humans get to go see those. I'm extremely jealous. I wouldn't be on this first spaceship out there, but I'd be on the like 100th, right? I'd be on the second gen.
School bus tour around the universe.
That'd be so cool. Dude, I'm telling you, there's gotta be such cool things out there.
But
it's incredible.
Here's a weird thought. I mean, is it really? Imagine a world where Neuralink advances and it just plugs into like your vision and feelings and senses. Like, do you have to go travel? And is there any difference in that world versus the?
I mean, that's a
that?
Yeah, mind fucking itself, right? That all these things don't necessarily have to be happening. They're just electrical impulses in your brain that make you perceive certain things.
Like,
I don't know. That's one of those topics. It's like you have to get in the mind of itself to really
and
absorb.
That's kind of why. That's kind of more towards the point of, do we end up like Ready Player One, where we stop exploring because our brains have this other interaction that is seen as just as good, because like in a world where you can go into a metaverse and truly feel like you're there, like you're in a dream, like you don't have to go out into space, you don't have to take other planets, you don't have to go get other planets. I think you have both aspects, and I think that's play out. But man,
I think Ready Player One is here first, right?
But it's got to be like true, like how you feel when you're in a dream, where you feel things, that's possible. I think like dreams are evidence that it's possible to have all the feelings in your body and not actually be in that world.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great thought experiment. I think that technology beats the space technology, and yeah, there's a lot of logic behind. I think people will choose to just plug in. It's easier, safer.
Yeah. So to touch on the other thought that came up when you were talking about this large scale, when I think about, the first thing that pops in my head when you say there's 6 billion suns out there, or 600 billion, whatever the number was,
400 billion.
Dang.
Stars.
Dang. I think it just becomes like a recursive thing to me of like, are we like, is it just the scale of, is there the next level up? Like the way we look at molecules or like particles in our body or whatever, is that just what we are on a bigger scale thing? Like, it's got to make up something. Because like if you're in to do the exact same thing that you just dogged on them for, like, but if you're like God, like you're looking at all this, like, is it just a small little like thing in a bigger picture?
There's that one saying, it's like you're just a speck of dust on a rock floating in a vast universe. I don't know. That doesn't align with what my gut is telling me.
I agree.
And I can't logically defeat or refute that, but like
It doesn't trip
there's
me
more
up
than
at
that.
all. I think a lot of people don't think about it because they're scared it's going to trip them up and worry them.
And like when you see that posted online, it's like stop worrying about your deadline. It's insignificant. Why do you care? We're all gonna die anyways. I don't like that mindset. When I think about how we're just a small speck of dust on a floating rock in space, I think about how incredible that means everything is. Like if this place is this important to me and has this much wonder here, imagine what everything has to offer.
Yeah, it's kind of open versus closed mindsets there.
Yeah, I think so.
It's yeah, inspiring to me at least. That's kind of like why I like podcasts and
Mm-hmm.
watching Star Wars. It's like whoa, cool
Yeah,
thought.
watching Star Wars.
Yeah,
Have
I
you
mean
seen
everyone
that?
in Star Wars seems to be oppressed, which is a shame. There's no residential. There are residential planets actually, but they don't look as cool as I would hope so. Like they're big cities and stuff. Anyways, sorry. Go on.
No, it's like it's funny when you say that. I often have the thought that like in Star Wars, there's these rebels fighting the Galactic Alliance, right?
Uh-huh.
In Earth, we're the Galactic Alliance, America, right?
With our big naval fleet of star destroyers,
That can just crunch any rebel forces.
we could just end a continent if we wanted to.
We literally have, right? We've taken functioning governments and toppled them repeatedly. We're good at it.
Yeah, but
And in all the books, the people in the Galactic Alliance think they're on the good side. It's funny, and all those stories come from Americans, right? And I don't think America's bad. I don't want to make it sound like I'm on the American bashing because I'm not. But it's just it's a real irony that we love writing these underdog stories against this big mega colossal group, and it's always the little guy fighting for freedom is the good guy.
yeah, I think they're implying that there's going to be some more decay in the government and rot and corruption that is inevitable to happen. So I think they're implying we're not there yet.
It feels like it does feel like I have a little bit of fight against the government too, right? I don't like all the regulations they have. I think they're too in my life,
Yeah,
right? So I think there's something there, and I wonder, right?
yeah, dude. It's kind of like Palpatine was like the last party.
Now you did it. Now you did. There we go. There we go. Well done.
I'm in the middle. Every right person ever. I'm in the middle.
Yeah. Depends what the middle is. I want to pick like I wish I could picture what it was like to grow up in Lebanon, right?
Yeah, I don't know if a wish is the right word, but it would be good
I
to
wish
get.
I had the perspective. I didn't
Yeah,
wish I was, right? I was born with the best lottery ticket ever made, which is being in America in 1990. But
5 American.
right. But I wish I understood it. Like I'm sure there's a lot of countries out there that look at America as the oppressive bad guy that tells them their government is not the one they need.
Yeah, I think my biggest flaw as of late is that it just seems so. There's so many helpless people or scenarios that it's hard to not go numb to them. You know, it's like
Yeah.
there's no reason for me to pay mind to it. I can't solve that issue for them. And then that kind of just keeps applying to more things for me, and you become numb to other people's hardships. And
I think that right there is exactly why cities suck. And you'll hear this is one of the things Joe Rogan says a million times, but like when you have too many people in one spot, they stop caring about each other, right?
that's
Because there's just too many things that to have empathy for. Time to wrap?
yeah, I probably got another like 5 minutes, but
Well, let's wrap. What did you think of the episode? What rating did you have it for it?
I give it a 69.
Nice.
And the reason it was a fun listen, but like I said, like it is one you don't listen to very often. It's maybe like 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
It was cool to just get yourself thinking about these things. But yeah, it's not one that if I was recommending straight off the bat to other people, I would recommend it first. We'd have to have a long conversation into some weird topics to get me to recommend this podcast to someone. But it's a good one. So if you're on the journey going through different podcasts with us, it would be worth a listen.
Yeah, I had it at 72. I didn't like the middle section. You take out that middle hour, I loved it. And that kind of what you're talking about, like the once or twice a year type of thing, is the takeaway that I had. Is I try to measure all we try to measure all these things about our lives. Are we having enough family time? Are we working out enough? Are we making enough money? I think I want to start asking myself, am I inspired every so often? Do I have that sense of wonder? I want to start scheduling that. Right when you see a mountain range or when you see this powerful river or some incredible animal, I want those experiences. I think these are like in that category of experiences, and I want to have them more often. I want to like make it a point.
Yeah, I don't know if you can like at least for me, I would be much as a point as would it would be more me reminding myself to allow myself to think about those things because like a lot of times I get just so busy and it'd be just
Yeah.
like myself to slow down.
Well, that's what I mean. It almost like you have to do it intentionally now, right? Because you can't look up at the sky and see a billion stars. You like our world's so soft, right, and safe. You don't see the jagged edges very much. You don't see the big picture. I don't know.
Yeah, I find a lot of motivation from perspective, being grateful. My takeaway, well, I kind of already took away. It got me thinking that I needed to watch Star Wars this winter, so I've already watched a couple episodes. I just heard Corinne laugh in the hallway. No, I didn't. Sorry, she sniffled her nose. It would have been funnier if you laughed.
Hey, Corinne, wait, Corinne, come here. Do you think Star Wars is a Christmas movie?
I've never seen Star Wars.
But she hasn't been.
I think that breaks the tie.
But I did wear a Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
I wore a Star
ugly sweater.
ugly sweater, and I got a lot of compliments.
Therefore, Christmas movie vote. Can you say Christmas movie? Yeah.
Christmas movie.
Yes.
No, that's not the same.
It counts. She said
That's
it. You can't not counter vote. That would be a corrupt voting system.
I did counter vote. I heard her vote before it was forcibly changed.
No, it wasn't. She didn't vote at first. She said she hadn't seen it, which was kind of a lie.
That's not a lie.
You have seen it. You just haven't paid attention. I've had it on a lot of times. Anyway, it was a good takeaway. Are you leaving? Anyways, okay.
Just rap. What do you think?
All right. Episode 12.
Episode 12. Let's go, baby.
It's like, why do we need to listen to Conley?
I don't think you ended it.
It's like kind of okay. I don't know. I haven't used Twitter. I'm kind of behind on getting videos posted, so I don't think one's gonna post this week or on Monday. So sometime this week I need to sit down and get all the videos exported. I didn't get any of the shorts exported for Coinbase episode, so I need to get those out. There should be some good ones in there. Hopefully it looked like I had bad connection today, so hopefully my phone uploads fine. Yeah, if it's loaded, it takes a while to upload, so I don't really know if it was uploaded right now, I'd just do it, but I don't think it will be. Yeah, it's still uploading. I didn't realize we're on episode 12, man. I thought we were on like 10. I know, I just gotta get caught up on getting the videos out. Maybe next weekend. It's just gotta be one like where I just hammer them out. But alright, well, I need to go take a shower before I have to go to work. Alright, good talk. Bye.